part of the providers, the hospitals and doctors. It is absolutely the most inefficient way to deliver medical services and to pay for them. Medicare is one-half the administrative cost, both for the provider as well as for the collection and the payment of the bills.
And I think it's probably what underlies the thinking of Americans out there, because when they were polled just recently with the poll that was shared with people today, there's overwhelming opposition to the GOP plan to end Medicare. So much so that in that effort by the GOP to convert Medicare to a voucher system, 57+% said no to that idea. And when you look at independent voters out there as a separate block of measurement, it closes into 60% at 58-point-some%. So people are saying overwhelmingly, we do not want to convert this into a voucher system where you get 32 cents on every dollar that you need, and they're saying very clearly, hands off my Medicare. The message couldn't be clearer. Hands off my Medicare.
I want to pick up one more issue. I know my Republican friends over here are constantly saying, oh, but in the Affordable Health Care Act, you took $500 billion out of Medicare. Let's understand what that's all about. In 2003, in that program, the Medicare Part D program, two programs were actually put in place. One was the drug benefit. Another was what is called Medicare Advantage. This is the supplemental program for Medicare. The Medicare Advantage program, when it was put in, to entice the insurance companies, the private insurance companies, to participate, they were given a 16% bonus over and above their cost. So for 8 years, or 7 years, they enjoyed a built-in additional profit of some 16%.
Just to get the concept up and running.
Just to get it up and going, and they continue to receive that additional 16%. Additional profit, guaranteed profit. When we did the Affordable Health Care Act, we said, wait a minute, they don't need that any longer. The program's up, it's going, the advertising, everything else is in place, administrative systems. So we want to take back that additional profit given to the insurance companies. That's where the $500 billion is over a 10-year period. That's money that was saved by creating an efficiency and, once again, ending an unnecessary supplement. It did not in any way, shape, or form change any of the benefits that seniors received in the Affordable Health Care Act. There was a sentence that said, no benefit changes, period.
Right, and where we saw overpayment for services provided, where there was unnecessary profit accrued in certain areas, we said enough is enough. The taxpayers shouldn't pay for adding to the profit column beyond reason for those private sector types that said they can do it cheaper, which was the claim. We can do it cheaper. Let us have this Medicare Advantage model, and we will show you how we can provide benefits. It didn't require such vast overpayment.
No more subsidies. Now that I'm on a roll, in that Affordable Health Care Act, there was additional money for the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, specifically to go after Medicare fraud. We know it's a problem. In the previous years, the Republican budgets reduced the effort of the Medicare program to go after fraud. So we put money into the Affordable Health Care Act to go after fraud. Guess what happened when the Republicans came to power? They eliminated the money that the IRS needed to add additional agents to go after Medicare fraud.
Right.
What's that all about?
In situations where we found recently, and there was an article in a major paper, New York Times, reported that there were CT chest scans done 2 times over at many locations where they were recovering those dollars through Medicare, and found that to cost them $25 million worth of waste, of fraud in the system. Now, that's just one small example of one small bit of opportunity and activity in the healthcare field. Think of it, if you have the agents, as you suggested, and if they are funded in a way that produces dollars of savings simply by having the infrastructure, the human infrastructure, to go out and chase this fraud down, you know, we can then benefit. There are systems here that we have developed that have the checks and balances, have the bells and whistles, have the preventative elements, even the efforts that we made in the Affordable Care Act to not require co-payments or deductibles for any of the screenings and the annual checkups for our seniors. Wonderful concepts to, again, contain the costs of health care within the Medicare model, which we thought was a wonderful thing to do. And you're right, there's no move here. When you end Medicare and make no adjustments and just hand it over to the private sector and say, keep on your trend of being much more expensive than Medicare and go out there and sharpen the pencil, without changes that they want to induce into the program, nothing changes, but the cost increases for the seniors.
So if you're looking at the deficit and dealing with the deficit, you don't have to destroy Medicare to save money. In fact, it will cost us more money, not directly in taxes, but out of the individual pocket. No doubt about it. The other thing is that there are many, many ways to bring down the cost of health care. Many of those were in the Affordable Health Care Act, which our Republican friends want to repeal. And let me just go through them. There's the end of the subsidies for the insurance companies, which we just talked about. There is the money for the IRS agents to go after fraud. There is in the legislation a provision that says that hospitals will not be paid for reinfections. These are one of the most expensive things in the hospital system is when a patient gets an infection in a hospital, comes back into the hospital. And all these are very, very simple things called cleanliness and hygiene at the hospital to bring down the infection rate. And in the Affordable Health Care Act, it said, no, no, no. If there's a reinfection in the hospital, we're not going to pay you a second time around, forcing the hospitals to keep it clean. Electronic medical records. Eliminated by the Republicans, or attempted to be eliminated by the Republicans. All of these things are good for health. The preventative care. Why would you eliminate things that save money?
And the annual checkups, don't forget those. And you know, just undoing the requirement for co-payment or deductibles for those screenings and annual checkups. There was this compassionate, reasonable, thoughtful approach to contain costs, provide for the continuation of a program that has grown immensely valuable in the lives and the fabric of our senior community. And you know what's interesting, too? This hands off my Medicare is not just resonating with today's seniors. In the recent poll that I just cited, 61% of those age 35, Representative Garamendi, and older, and 63% of those age 55 and older said they would be worse off under this GOP plan. Worse off. So people, the more they check this out, all age groups, under 55, under 35, over 65, are all saying, hands off my Medicare. It's no wonder that the message has been resoundingly delivered throughout this country, no matter what region. You're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. We're hearing it from coast to coast.
And everything in between. Hands off my Medicare. Hands off my children's Medicare. However, we're saying that. The public is saying that. Democrats say we will not give an inch on Medicare. We will control the cost within the total health care system, but we will not allow the destruction of Medicare. Keep your hands off Medicare. The public is saying that. And what are our Republican friends saying? They're saying keep your hands off big oil's subsidies. Hello? What's that all about? They're saying don't touch the subsidies, the billions of dollars annually that the oil industry gets, our tax dollars given to the oil industry. Don't touch that. Keep your hands off those subsidies, but they want to put their hands onto Medicare and literally destroy Medicare.
So you're saying that, to quote your dollar figure from earlier, if you're 54, 55 years old, save another $182,000 to cover your health care costs with the end to Medicare because the system has to pay oil subsidies to the historically profit-rich oil industry. So we're saying, okay, garner up those dollars. Keep that, save somehow the $182,000 additionally that you'll require for your health care coverage, because we have to give this mindless handout to the oil companies. Or guess what? $6,000 more out of your pocket per year for your health care coverage because we won't have the dollars if you don't do that to pay the oil companies or to give the millionaires and billionaires their tax cut. These are the priorities that need to be addressed thoughtfully at a negotiating table, and, you know, the ridiculousness of the empowerment of the most powerful at the expense of the masses of those who have received quality of care and dignity addressing their golden years, that has to be sacrificed just so that this stubbornness of negotiation can continue, where you're going to have this Darwinistic outcome.
Representative Tonko, we do have a deficit problem. We have to address that. We've talked about ways that that can be done in the health care sector without harming Medicare. But one of the most important things in addressing the deficit problem is to put people back to work. Americans want to work. They want to earn a living. They want to have enough money to pay for their home or their rent and food and take care of their children so their kids can go to school. We need a jobs program. We need a jobs program in America. We need to be able to put people back to work. We're into almost the 6th month, the end of the 6th month of this session. Not one jobs bill put forward by the Republican Party. Not one. They talk about cuts in taxes as though that's somehow going to create jobs, and there's absolutely no evidence that it does. What the Democrats...
Well, what does grow jobs is strengthening purchasing power, so that as the middle class of America, which is the engine that drives the economy, has the available cash to purchase things, to be out there and allow for the upper strata to have their products sold, purchased, you're going to destroy purchasing power of many households. Senior households, those who have to save $182,000 before they qualify as seniors, that's going to drain this economy.
That's money directly out of the pockets, and that's money that has to be set aside. What I'd like to take a few moments on, with your permission, is to talk about a program that you and I and other colleagues on the Democratic side have been working on now for the last almost a year now, and we call it Make It in America. It's that great American middle class that were the heart and soul of this country, the men and women that went to work every day and made something. They made cars. They made jet airplanes. They made engines. They were out in the fields. They made the tractors. America was the great manufacturing center of the world. And in the last 20 to 30 years, we've allowed that to dissipate. We want it back, and we know we can get it back. We have the ability in this nation to rebuild the manufacturing base of America, and when we do, we will rebuild the middle class of America. We call this Make It in America, and it's so important. You come from an area that still is a great manufacturing sector and was once the greatest center of it.
Absolutely. In the 21st Congressional District of New York, in the Capital Region, Mohawk Valley of upstate New York, hosts the original infrastructure of the Erie and Barge canals, the route that gave birth to a necklace of communities called mill towns that became the epicenters of invention and innovation that inspired a westward movement, that inspired an industrial revolution. That pioneer spirit is the DNA of America. Give us the opportunity to invest in ideas, and we turn that into manufacturing, and we go forward. But it begins and ends with a quality workforce. And the cuts proposed in Head Start, with 250,000 of children being denied Head Start opportunities, the huge cuts to Title I funding to get resources to our schools, especially those in most difficult situations, would destroy the workforce of the future. Without investment in education, there is not a strong and vibrant workforce that can continue to carry our strength as a nation in this global economy. So that is a start. And then also, I have witnessed in my region, where we're the 3rd fastest growing hub in this nation for science and tech jobs, high-tech jobs, that when you start cutting away at R&D, you're going to destroy the opportunity that we have as we continue to cluster with these science and tech-related jobs.
Representative Tonko, I come from the San Francisco Bay Area. We are the first great science, research, technology. We'll let you be number 3, but we're number 1.
Not for long.
But the point here is that our strategy of Make It in America includes a half a dozen different specific programs, one of which you talked about, which is the education system. Why in the world, when we need, as you just said, to build the ability of the American worker to compete, smart, capable, would we reduce the education funding? But that's precisely what our Republican friends have done. They've taken money out of the Pell Grants for college, very significant, a Head Start, all of the federal education programs are being reduced by our Republicans at a time when we have to build it. So if we're going to make it in America, we need a well-educated workforce. This one up here we call trade. Listen, China's cheating. China is cheating on their currency. And no matter how creative, how competitive we are, how hard our workers work, it's virtually impossible to compete against China because of their currency cheating. The Democrats want to put on this floor, send to the President a demand that the United States takes action against China on their currency issue so that we could have a fair trade situation.
Absolutely. The currency issue is epicenter to the solution that's required. Fair trade is what really allows us to compete effectively. This imbalance that's been able to continue is very harmful to our economy, to the workers of this country. You know, the working families have taken it on the chin. The middle class of America needs that purchasing power, that enhancement of purchasing power. Then you see economic recovery. Then you see people putting people to work, because as that activity continues to grow and snowball, you will require the investment in jobs in all, from service sector on over to manufacturing, on over to R&D. And where you plant R&D as a center of invention, of ideas, of innovation, there will come to be next door to that planting the manufacturing elements that will allow our manufacturing sector to prosper.
R&D, research and development. R&D, research and development. In the continuing resolutions pushed forward by the Republican Party and successfully enacted and signed into law by their intransigents to deal with any new revenues, the research budgets of the United States were significantly reduced at a time when we actually need more research. Research into energy. We know we have an energy crisis. We know we need to move to new energy sources, and yet the Republican budget reduced the energy research for this nation. Automotive research. We're just now beginning to claw back and rebuild our automotive industry, and so research into batteries and new efficient automobiles eliminated by the Republicans. What are they thinking?
Right. Well, and when you talk about battery manufacturing, advanced battery manufacturing taking place in my district, you're talking about the linchpin. You're talking about that connector to all of the opportunities out there that transition us into alternative technologies. It begins and ends with that battery development, and we have those opportunities. We've invested in those. We need to continue to take that curve northward so that you put the money down that will grow jobs. That's investing. There's a rightful expectation that there will be lucrative dividends from that investment. And when you look at the global race, this is much similar to the global race on space in the early 60s, when we got knocked on the seat of our pants in the late 50s with the Sputnik moment. And that woke us up, and we involved ourselves, and we embraced with great passion getting that race done in winning style, and we won it. Today we have more competitors. You've got China, Brazil, India, Germany, Japan, all investing in a global race on clean energy and innovation, and we're going to tie our hands behind our back.
Take away the research money and see what happens. We lose the race. We know, hey, we all get sick, right? Why would you ever put forward a policy to reduce research in medical services, in the basic understanding of the human gene, of understanding how we can solve medical problems? Why would anybody propose a reduction in the research for medical care? I don't know, but they did. And they succeeded in reducing the budget for medical research. So energy, medical research, automotive, transportation research, they're reducing the budget and they expect our economy to grow, to be competitive? I don't get it, but that's what they've done.
You know, there's multiple benefits that come not just with job creation, but with service delivery. If you provide for this sort of basic research, you're providing for cures to illnesses that have continued to haunt the fabric and quality of life of individuals. And if we can discover and unleash that potential, there is a quality of life that's addressed. There's hope that's delivered to the doorsteps of families across this country. And so it goes well beyond job creation. But you're absolutely right. These are jobs that are of high quality, that require, again, the investment of America's know-how. They're opportunities for intellectual capacity that we as a nation invest in higher ed, and this is putting that higher ed product to work.
Let's take another example, and this comes up on the energy policies of this nation. I think we all understand that the oil industry has done rather well, and we continue to subsidize the oil industry. Efforts to eliminate those subsidies and to shift those to the new green technologies have been blocked by our Republican friends. Now, we do have money going to subsidize, to provide incentives for the clean energy industry, wind turbines and solar photovoltaic systems. I have a bill in, actually two bills, that say that our tax money must be spent on American-made equipment. For example, I have two big wind farms in my district, the Altamont and the Solano wind farms. They're huge, huge pieces of equipment, towers 400 feet high, blades that are a football field across, made overseas in Europe and China. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait a minute, our tax money is being used to help build these systems? And yet they're not American-made. I said, no, 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 no. If our tax money is going to be used in this way, it's going to be used to buy American-made equipment. That bill is in. It's being now slowed down, blocked in the various Republican committees here. But it seems to me foolishness to allow our tax money to be sent offshore. We also, all of us pay 18.5 cents excise tax for gasoline. That money is used to build roads, highways, bridges, and to buy trains and buses and light rail systems. My legislation says that that money must be used to buy American-made equipment. Those trains, those buses, those light rails, the steel in the bridges will be American-made. Why don't we bring those jobs back home? We can do this using money that is already available, already being spent, but sometimes, all too often, spent on foreign-made equipment.
And talk about this sort of innovation economy where you invest in America, you make certain that our infrastructure that moves goods and people is as sound as it can be. But as we invest in the growth of jobs and make it in America, and you talk about the clean energy economy, the alternative technologies, the innovation that comes with advanced battery manufacturing, that stops the trail eventually of dollars that are exported out of this nation going into the Mideast, $400 billion plus a year, to maintain this fossil-based economy that has us gluttonously dependent on fossil-based fuels that are imported from unfriendly nations to the United States. Well, and, you know, there has to be a cleaner way, a more innovative way, one that embraces the American intellect and the ingenuity that enables us to grow products that are not on the radar screen. That's how a great nation continues its greatness. That's how it continues to become even greater, by putting to work its brain power and developing products that are kinder to the environment, strong in its manufacturing element that has it produced here in these United States, and draws upon the workforce and the R&D potential of everyone from trades up to PhDs involved in that equation of success. I think it's a way to empower us across the board.
As we come to the conclusion of this, the Make It in America agenda is a powerful agenda to rebuild the American manufacturing base, to put middle-class America back to work, so that they can have the home that they want, so that they can take care of their children's education, so that they can have, once again, pride in this nation. We can do it. And these are the policies: a fair trade policy in which we tell China, no, 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 we're not going to let you cheat on your currency any longer, where the tax policy makes sense. This one, an example, somewhere in the last 30 years, built into the tax laws was an incentive for American corporations to shift jobs offshore. They take a job, they send it offshore, they got a tax break. I don't know where it came from. I know it was in the codes. And what we did in the tax bill last December was to eliminate that tax break for American corporations sending jobs offshore. It passed. The President signed it, but our Republican colleagues to a person voted against it. They voted to keep that tax break for American corporations to shift jobs offshore. Doesn't make sense to me, but it's gone. And that's the kind of policy we want to put in place where we take care of Americans who are working in America.
And you know, Representative Garamendi, just about an hour ago, we were talking about it all being about principles, values, priorities, contrasts, and choices. Well, if we go with the choice to not make it in America, not invest in innovation, research for medical purposes means that we may not be able to contain those costs of medical needs, of health care, because we'll avoid the discovery of better treatments, new cures, prevention elements. That all comes with the medical research and medical innovation that can be made in America. Okay. And then we have opportunities to keep Medicare alive, not destroy it, by containing costs for health care and allowing for the dignity of life and the quality of care to go forward without this treatment to end Medicare. And the choice is to avoid powerful industries like the oil industry, giving them mindless handouts, or do we invest in education, higher education, job creation, quality of life issues, housing opportunities? These are the choices we're talking about. And this hour has been, I think, an opportunity for us to exchange better with a clearer expression what the contrast is on the floor in the House of Representatives and what it is between this path to prosperity that we have seen as a road to ruin, one that would end Medicare, continue handouts into record profit oil industries, to continue to advocate for millionaire and billionaire tax cuts at the expense of America's middle class that needs a stronger purchasing power and needs to know that her children and grandchildren will have the opportunities, equal opportunities, for quality education and a college dream.
Thank you very much, Representative Tonko. Our promise to the American seniors and those who want to become seniors is that this tombstone that the Republican Party wants to put out there, that is the termination of Medicare, will not happen. We will not let this happen. Medicare is part of the American agenda. It is part of what is good about America, and it will not be terminated by anybody. That's our promise. That's where we draw our line in the sand. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Representative Garamendi. It's been a great opportunity to share this hour with you. We only ask that thoughtfulness guide the negotiations, either on a deficit ceiling bill or on budgets as we go forward. Thoughtfulness and a desire to grow opportunity for all Americans. We're at our best when the inclusiveness of this process enables everyone to be empowered, and not just the special interests, the wealthy oil industry that has set record profit two years in a row. And we, with that, yield back and thank the Speaker for the opportunity.
Gentleman yields back under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5, 2011. The gentlewoman from Alabama, Ms. Roby, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the topic of my special order regarding the debt and jobs.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, I'm joined here tonight by members of the freshman class once again to focus this discussion on jobs. And I immediately have just one glaring road sign in my mind as I sat here and listened to the Democrats talk about their so-called plan, Make It in America, and it stop. S-T-O-P. This has to stop. The American people deserve the truth. And what you just listened to, what was just presented to you, is not that. We have got to focus in and look at, which we're going to do tonight in a very good discussion about this job-killing legislation that has been presented by the very side that just stood up and told the American people that we're out to kill Medicare and so on and so forth. People can't make it in America right now because of the heavy hand of government that is bearing down on them because of this job-killing legislation and overreaching regulation that continues to be promoted by the other side, and we've had enough. So let's stop. Let's stop the demagoguery. Let's get down to the truth. We're going to have that discussion here tonight. The average unemployed American has been searching for a job for 39 weeks, the longest average time in history to be looking for a job. 21 million jobs are still needed by 2020 to return our nation to a full job recovery. Companies in the United States of America are hitting the brakes on hiring and production. I want to start our discussion here tonight. I want to hit on 3 points. I'm going to talk very quickly about health care, about Boiler Mac, and then about energy and jobs. And that's going to lead for the discussion here tonight. On May 19th, a small business owner received documents from his insurance carrier stating that due to Obamacare, the coverage in his policy would be updated with the new terms of the law on the anniversary of his enrollment. 4 days later, this small business owner received a statement from the same insurance carrier stating that his monthly premium was increased by 25%. And I have those documents with me tonight. Why does the administration continue to state that Americans will not see significant increases in their health care coverage when it is already happening right now? Mr. Speaker, I would like to submit these documents into the congressional record. Thank you. The Obama administration is encouraging employers to retain coverage, and how can a small business owner retain coverage if it forces them into bankruptcy? And I'm going to point you again to Don Cox. He's a small business owner. He owns 15 Pizza Huts in Alabama, and he is very proud of his products and his employees. The health care regulation is on the top of his list. And in 2014, Don would provide all of his employees with health insurance. Sadly, only 5 Pizza Huts will be able to stay afloat. 10 out of the 15 will go bankrupt due to this health care law. They stand on the floor tonight and they submit to you that we need to make it in America, and we can't make it in America due to their job-killing health care legislation. If Don provides health insurance to all of his employees, then 10 Pizza Huts go bankrupt. And although when we're looking at his balance sheet, he's making a profit, almost all of the profits are returned back into the business. Last week, when we stood on this floor a couple weeks ago, I talked about Remanufacturing, who spent $1 million adding on to their already 700,000 square foot facility in Montgomery, Alabama, where they provide over 1,000 jobs. And that $1 million investment was to comply with federal regulations. The Environmental Protection Agency has been an agency that has been particularly troublesome and overburdensome businesses and placing roadblocks to domestic energy production. I want to talk about the EPA's proposed Boiler Mac rule and what that would do to small businesses. I've had people in my office all week talking about this. Next week, I'm going to be touring International Paper Mill in Prattville, Alabama, and Boiler Mac impacts 42 boilers and 4 process heaters at 19 IP facilities. Their compliance costs for just Boiler Mac and the commercial and industrial incinerator rule are $600 million. This is not rocket science. We're standing around, and our friends on the other side of the aisle are asking us, where is our jobs bill? And yet I would like to return the question to them and say, where is yours? All you have done for the past 2 years or more is do your best to stifle job creation, American job creation, right here in the United States. Enough is enough. This must stop. And then, of course, today we learned that the President has decided that he is going to dip into our own energy oil reserves right here in the United States, and yet does everything he can to stand in the way to energy production right here in the United States. We have got to lessen our dependence on Middle Eastern oil. Americans deserve the truth, and I hope tonight's discussion will provide that opportunity. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and at this time I'd like to yield to my friend from Illinois as much time as he would consume.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentlelady for yielding. I think she said it perfectly. I remember, I'm a young guy, I remember in the 80s watching the Where's the Beef commercials. Everybody remembers that? Well, here's a question. Where's the jobs? Where's the jobs? I remember a little over 2 years ago the President promising that if we pass an $800 billion stimulus, unemployment would not exceed 8%. Well, where'd that get us? In fact, if you look at the President's own charts, it said that by this time, under this stimulus plan, unemployment would be about 6.5%. I'll tell you, that's compelling when you see that on a chart. When you're a country facing a huge economic crisis in a slide, that's very compelling. But it didn't work. It was a waste. We wasted $800 billion of hard-earned money, most of which was borrowed, on something that didn't work. Now, Americans are still feeling the pain. In fact, unemployment went up towards 10%. Counties in my district in Illinois have upwards of 11%. Didn't work at all. And now I've actually heard our colleagues on the other side of the aisle float a second stimulus. Well, they say, well, $800 billion wasn't enough. Probably needed to be more. Well, why don't we just make it $5 trillion or $10 trillion? I mean, if we can just print money and borrow it, but then tax, borrow, and spend our way to prosperity, we'll make it $10 trillion. Well, that's ludicrous. We know that's ludicrous. I hail from Illinois. Illinois is the President's home state. Illinois has huge problems with folks that are looking for work that can't find it. Illinois used to be a manufacturing economic powerhouse of the United States. It's not hard to drive around and see abandoned warehouses or abandoned factories. Joliet, Illinois, a city in my district, knows that all too well. They understand that. So what do? Well, recently Illinois came up with a decision. Well, the budget's bad. Yeah, the budget's bad because you're running business out of your state. So as a result, they say we have to raise taxes. So in Springfield, they raised the individual income tax rate, and then they raised the corporate tax rate. Now, there's got to be some good news to this, right? Well, the state of Illinois has had $300 million in increased tax revenues that they've seen from this corporate tax increase. Oh, but if you read the Wall Street Journal just shortly ago, you'd read that $240 million has already been given away to these corporations to incentivize them to stay in Illinois because they were looking at leaving because of this high tax rate. I'll tell you, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, but expecting different results. We cannot tax, borrow, and spend our way to prosperity. You talk to any small businessman out there, small businesswoman, or job creator, or owner of a factory that's just trying to take their products to market, and they'll tell you the biggest hindrance, one of the biggest hindrances, besides the lack of confidence, is the government. I've talked to a lot of people and said, how much better would your life be if you weren't forced to sit around day after day and just fill out government paperwork? You could take that employee and make them productive. They may be able to go out and sell goods. They may be able to go out and expand the business. Nope. We got to tax and regulate in this town. So this town's really good at taxing and regulating, at putting things through a bureaucracy and letting bureaucrats have their way. We're going off a cliff, and it's time to pump the brakes. It is absolutely time for us to get deadly serious about reducing the size of the federal government, cutting spending, and getting Americans back to work. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle like to say, where's your jobs plan? Well, we put forward plenty of jobs plans. One of them includes drilling for oil here at home, which we'll get into, which my good friend here actually that will be speaking soon sponsored, and I commend him for that. But there's a fundamental difference between the two parties here. The Democrats believe that government creates jobs. You hear that all the time in what they say. Listen closely. They say, we just need a jobs bill. We need $800 billion in more spending. We need this program. What you're going to hear tonight is the Republican view. Federal government doesn't create jobs. Federal government can make jobs. We can take tax money, put it through a bureaucracy, and spit out a paycheck. Jobs are created in the free market. We can create an environment for job creation. And that's what our freshman class came here to do. And we aim to do it. And I yield back.
Thank you so much for the gentleman from Illinois. Your comments are right on. And before we move on, I want to share with you, I heard from a gentleman today, a businessman in Greenville, Alabama, and I'm going to quote him, economic conditions being what they are, we are in a situation where real estate values are declining, demand for our products are declining, and the value of the dollar on world markets is declining. All of these factor into the uncertainty of business today. In the long term, I can't see any expansion until regulations are eased and the health care bill is killed. Now, you want to talk about whether or not we have a jobs plan. This is their jobs plan. What this businessman in Greenville, Alabama is facing is exactly what the other side of the aisle has proposed, and he can't create jobs. And we have time and time again shown leadership here in the House, in the majority, trying to repeal this job-killing legislation, and we run into roadblock after roadblock with the Senate majority and with the White House. Now I'd like to yield time to the gentlelady from Washington.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, you know, I'm excited to be here this evening to talk about something that our country has too few of, jobs. In my neck of the woods in southwest Washington state, just about every county, save one, has double-digit unemployment. And we've had those disappointing numbers now for many months, almost 30 plus. So we are at a place right now where families are hurting. You know, moms who are paying the bills at night, thinking about health care payments, thinking about what kind of, you know, getting the kids to school, how much it's going to cost to fill up the gas, gas in the gas tank, what the costs of, you know, meeting the mortgage are going to be. These are the real challenges that middle America is facing right now, and that's why we're here. That's why we're fighting. That's why we want to rein in spending, because as this chart shows, less government means lower unemployment. Less government spending means, if you look at this, and this is from 1980 to 2010, they've almost tracked equally our unemployment numbers and the federal government spending or outlays. The red line is just that. It's government spending. The blue line is the unemployment rate. It's very easy to see that when the federal government actually spends less and leaves that money in the pockets of that mom who's trying to make her mortgage payment, or that single dad who is attempting to get food on the table, put shoes on the kids, pay for the housing, pay for the transportation costs, it means that when we let them keep more of their hard-earned money, we actually improve the economy nationally. And that's what we need to do. You know, when I travel Southwest Washington and over Washington, and over the last few months I've had the opportunity to talk with many individuals, businesses, families, and there's really a common theme. Let us succeed. Man, I believe in making it in America. I believe in having things manufactured here, doing things here in America. You could quit relying on these other countries to produce things. But you know what has to happen? We have to create an environment that makes it easier for people to do business here in America. Let me give you a few names. Tom Cook, he owns Taco Bell franchises in my neck of the woods. Cliff McMillan, owner of Vancouver Pizza. Sherry Moffett, owner of Washougal Flowers. What do all these folks have in common? Well, they're small business owners, number one. They're creating jobs in our communities. But secondly, they're all facing government-initiated problems. Whether it's higher gas prices because of this administration's refusal to explore for American energy here in the United States, whether it's a regulatory environment like the health care bill that the gentlelady from Alabama talked about. That's one of the #1 issues I hear about from small employers, is they are unsure what regulation, what shoe's going to drop next when it comes to this health care bill. These business owners are fighting to survive, and we need to make it easier for them to survive, which is why this House passed over 4 solutions for gas prices. We heard from small business owners and employers across America, and we responded. We have now passed no less than 4 bills that allow Americans to explore for American energy using American workers here in America. 4 bills. We call on the Senate to step up and pass those bills so that we can create those jobs. We can bring gas prices down, and so these business owners that I've talked about can compete with businesses, not just in the United States, but globally. You know, talking about regulations, I think about Tidewater Barge, which is located on the Columbia River. The Columbia River is the 4th largest river system in the United States. It is right in my backyard. And Tidewater Barge are barge operators. They move freight up and down the Columbia River. And boy, every time I have the opportunity to talk to either those employees or the employer there, they just ask me, what's going to happen next? What regulation are you going to send our way that's going to make it more difficult for us to compete? Health care is a big issue for them. They offer a tremendous health care plan to their employees, vision, dental, you name it. And I got the chance to meet with those employees last summer, and one of the things that they shared with me, in fact, I had a lady, a sweet lady, come to me, middle-aged, has worked for the company for a while, came to me in tears because she was so afraid of the cuts to Medicare that the Obama administration was putting forward. Over $500 billion, right? She knew what that meant for her mother and her mother's health care. She was terrified. So on one hand, I have the employees saying, this is impacting us individually, and then I have the owner saying, look, this health care bill is going to cost my employees this tremendous health care plan. It's going to jeopardize it. Well, why are we making it harder for these businesses to operate? We should be making it easier for them to operate, not harder. And that's part of what we're doing here. We're going to hold this administration, or anybody. Really, it's not a Republican or Democrat issue. We're going to hold anybody's feet to the fire. If you work in the federal government and you're making it harder for businesses to survive, guess what? We have our eye on you. And we're going to work to advance policies off this House floor like the American energy bills I mentioned earlier. We've also put in place and are fighting to put in place a replacement bill for the health care, the disastrous health care bill that was passed last year. One of those things that I support, and it's making its way through committee right now, is purchase of health insurance across state lines. That would allow individuals who are right now in one of the most costly insurance markets to purchase health insurance. You get on your computer, just like they do for auto insurance, or we can think of the lizard or the caveman. Get on your computer and choose a health care plan from any state in the union, right? It has to be regulated by one of those states. Pick one that best meets your needs and your pocketbooks. That will drive down costs immediately. And it's not going to grow government, and it's not going to cost taxpayers. These are common sense solutions that get us where we need to go. They're going to grow jobs in America, and they're going to return and empower families and individuals and business owners, not the government. It's the right solution. I invite my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to join us. So with that, I yield back.
Thank you so much to the gentlelady from Washington. And, you know, again, you make great points, and what we all know as we travel around our district and we talk to business owners is that it's that very uncertainty associated with Obamacare that is preventing these job creators to create jobs. I mean, they're sitting in their boardrooms, they're sitting around the table in the break room, and they're saying, how do we plan for 2014 when we don't know how this is going to affect us? All of the regulations that have yet to be written, and yet right before we had this hour to share together and to share with America, we see posters of a tombstone where we're out to kill Medicare, yet Obamacare alone cuts Medicare by $500 billion. We have a plan. They don't have a plan. Their plan is the status quo, and Medicare dies. That's their plan. Our plan sustains Medicare for this generation and future generations. Thank you so much. I now yield to the gentleman from Wisconsin.
thank the gentlelady for yielding. And I have to I agree with most everything you said tonight, but I have to disagree with you on one point. With regard to Medicare, the President does have a plan. And with that plan, I talk to seniors all over my district. And one of the things that makes our seniors so angry is that over the course of their lifetime, the money that they have put in their Social Security accounts, it's been robbed. It's been taken out and spent for other things. And so what the President does in Obamacare is he takes $500 billion out of Medicare and uses it to spend for Obamacare. And listen, I mean, everyone agrees that we have to fix Medicare. I mean, the President agrees there's a problem. Bill Clinton agrees there's a problem. Republicans agree there's a problem. How do we fix it? Well, what the President does is he said, you know what? I'm going to institute the IPAB board, the Independent Payment Advisory Board. This is a board that's going to look at prices that we pay our health care providers, and it's going to reduce those reimbursements that are already incredibly low. What does that mean? It's going to affect the access to care for our current seniors. That is absolutely unacceptable. We have a plan in place that's going to save Medicare, it's going to protect Medicare, and we're going to continue this great program for future generations. Let's not be mistaken. The President has a plan that is going to kill Medicare and provide a lack of service to our seniors. I do want to move from that to jobs, though, because that is what's on everyone's mind. As I travel central and northern Wisconsin, people are concerned about jobs. There's a lack of opportunity. There's a lack of prosperity. And so I want to review what the Democrats did, which is they talked to folks who will come up with abstract theories. They went and talked to university professors, and they came up with an $800+ billion stimulus bill. Remember, that was their jobs plan. $800 billion of government spending. They said government spending will lead to economic growth, prosperity, wealth, and sustainable jobs. And you know what? We know that government spending doesn't lead to sustainable jobs. It's never worked. It doesn't work. And that's why when they promised that we would have unemployment of only 8% and we would create millions of jobs, the alternative happened. We've lost millions of jobs, and we've had unemployment reach almost 10%. What we've done is not talk to the professors who sit in the classroom. I've gone out and talked to job creators, people who are actually putting people in my community back to work. And what do they say? Why aren't they creating jobs? They continually talk about uncertainty in the marketplace. And what does that mean? Well, when they talk about uncertainty, they talk about a $14.3 trillion debt. The fact that we're going to borrow $1.5 trillion this year alone. We're going to borrow $1 trillion every year for the next 10 years. I mean, we are, as a gentleman from Illinois said, we are cascading towards a cliff. And there's a road sign that says, danger, pump the brakes, you're about to go over. That's what we're going to do. Our job creators are saying, listen, with this massive debt, it creates uncertainty. It creates uncertainty because we don't know what interest rates are going to be in the very near future. We're concerned about inflation because government is printing money to purchase our debt. They're concerned about punishing tax increases. They're concerned about health care costs with Obamacare. And they're, as the gentlelady from Alabama said, they're concerned about regulation. In my district, we have a great forest products industry. We make paper in my district, and Boiler Mac is going to kill jobs in central Wisconsin and send them to China where they have no regulation. All these things have come together to create uncertainty, which means our job creators aren't reinvesting. They're not expanding. They're not growing. They're not innovating. And you know what? It doesn't hurt the job creator. It hurts the families in our community because they have a lack of opportunity for jobs. You know, I want to just point to a chart that we have here. When we have recessions, there's what's called symmetry. If you have a U-shaped decline in this recession, you'll have a U-shaped recovery. If you have a V-shaped decline, you'll have a V-shaped recovery. That's our history, and you'll see that in this chart. But what's happened different in this recession, the Great Recession, is we've had a V-shaped decline. The recovery has ticked up a little bit, and then it's flatlined. Why has it flatlined? Because of the uncertainty that has been created coming from Washington, from our Democrat colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and this administration. It's causing a lack of willingness for our job creators to reinvest. And I want to bring up one last point. You know, I continually hear how our friends want to increase taxes on our job creators, and I think anyone who looks at that says we will not create jobs by taxing the job creator. And I think it's a good example. You know, if those who say we should raise taxes and they're concerned about jobs going overseas, it's a pretty simple example that I use. You know, you have Walmart and Target and Kmart, all the big box retailers, they compete against one each other, right? They're competing. And Kmart's not doing so well. They're laying people off. They're closing stores, right? And if my friends on the other side of the aisle, the Democrats, they'd come in and they would advise Kmart. They'd say, listen, you have to bring in more revenue. You have to keep these people employed. You have to keep these stores open. You need more revenue. To bring in more revenue, all you have to do is raise your prices. If you raise your prices, you'll bring in more revenue. We all know that's not what will happen. You raise your prices at Kmart, you will drive more shoppers to Walmart and Target. You raise the cost of doing business in America, you are going to send more of our jobs to China, India, Mexico, Vietnam, but you're going to outsource these jobs because you're raising the cost of doing business in America. Let's make sure we make America a competitive place where our job creators can do what they do best, which is create jobs and put our hard-working families back to work. And with that, I would yield back to the gentlelady.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate your comments. And I do want to point out, you brought up Boilermack, as did I, that we have a colleague from Virginia, the gentleman from Virginia, Representative Morgan Griffith, that introduced legislation just yesterday, again showing leadership on this side of the aisle about deregulating the EPA to issue achievable standards for industrial, commercial, and institutional boilers, process heaters, and incinerators, and for other purposes. And for that, we are very grateful for his leadership. Now I'd like to yield time to the gentleman from Colorado.
I thank the gentlelady from Alabama for her leadership on this matter and for the time and opportunity tonight to speak about jobs, our economy, and what's happening to our country. Something that really startled me a little bit tonight was when the gentlelady from Washington made this statement. Speaking to her constituents, speaking to businesses around her district, she mentioned that one of them said, "Let us succeed." I was taken aback when she said that somebody would actually come to her and say, you know, all we want the government to do, all we want our policymakers to do, all we want our regulations is to let us succeed. And isn't it amazing that we have transformed our economy from a time where people could go out and achieve what they wanted to achieve by working hard, by sacrificing, by taking risk. And now they're concerned because their government is in a place where it won't let them succeed. And I'm glad that you mentioned that tonight, because I think that's at the very heart of what every single one of us have talked about tonight and what we will continue to talk about over the next month and years to come. How do we make sure that the policies that we put in place in this country aren't government-driven decisions that dictate what we're going to do for people's businesses or lives, but instead get government out of the way so that we can let our businesses, our families, and America's working families, let them succeed. Yesterday, a report was issued by the Congressional Budget Office. And I don't know how many people saw or took the time to listen or see what the Congressional Budget Office report had to say, but it talked about the fact that we have a $1.6 trillion deficit in this country, that we have a $14 trillion debt. All of this at the same time that our unemployment levels in this country have creeped back up over 9%, unacceptably high. Those of us in the chamber tonight were sent here in November because we believe that we have more important work to do than simply spending money that we don't have. than passing regulations that kill jobs. The work that we were sent here to do in November is work to get our economy back on track. The report from the Congressional Budget Office indicates that the situation of our economy is actually worse than many of us have been led to believe. Our national debt will grow to be larger than the entire U.S. economy this year. We officially owe more than the entire country produces in a year. That will happen at the end of this year. If this isn't a wake-up call to what's happening in our economy, what's happening in our spending, I don't know what will be. We cannot afford to wait and delay. We've got to solve this problem now. I want to read a quote from the Congressional Budget Office report. The sooner that long-term changes to spending and revenues are agreed on, and the sooner they are carried out once the economic weakness ends, the smaller will be the damage to the economy from the growing federal debt. The report didn't say we can avoid the damage. The report didn't say there won't be any damage, but the report said the smaller will be the damage. $14 trillion debt, $1.6 trillion deficits. That is damaging our economy, it's damaging our country, and it's damaging our opportunity to create jobs and long-term economic stability. It is a clear call to action from the Congressional Budget Office. We've got to be bulldogs around this chamber when it comes to reducing our spending, to make sure that we are standing up to the regulators who want to put people out of business simply because they're sitting behind a desk and think they can. Tom Block is a constituent of mine who came to me 2 years ago and said, I'm worried that I'll lose my business because of overregulation. And you know what he saw over the course of the last 2 years? He saw the people that he did business with, the people that he partnered with, leave the state of Colorado because of overregulation. Last Saturday, I had the opportunity to tour Roggen, Colorado, Haxton, Colorado, Akron, Colorado, and the Eastern Plains to talk to farmers, wheat growers, cattlemen, ag businessmen, all who came to me with a similar theme. What is happening to them with regulation, overregulation, and their concern that they won't have the opportunity to pass on their legacy to future generations because of a government that's decided it knows best and knows more than them. And I want to talk a little bit about what the gentlelady said from Alabama when she was referring to the tombstone that we saw shown earlier by the minority, who said ending Medicare on the tombstone. Today in committee, we had an opportunity to vote on an amendment that said we will oppose and vote against any amendment, any bill, any legislation that would end Medicare. And you know what the colleagues on the Democrat side of the aisle did? They voted present. They voted present, refusing to stand up for Medicare because they know when we ask where their plan is, they don't have one. When we ask them where the jobs are, they don't know. When we ask them for leadership, they run and hide. And why? Because they're voting present when it comes to saving Medicare. I thank the gentlelady for the time tonight.
Thank you so much.